Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Toast to Love podcast. This is a podcast where we talk about relationships, and in its first season, we're delving into the relationship that I think is the second most important relationship you can have is marriage. And so we got two great people today, and I'm elated to have them here. We just had dinner, took time out to just relax, and so I'm excited about some of the information they're going to share with us. But I want to introduce my co-host. I'm Isaac McJempsey, and this is
Jackie McJempsey.
Yes, none other than my beloved. And so we're great to have you here. But we have with us Craig and Donna Lambert. And we're excited for them to be here. And they're going to share their story, and we're going to ask them some great questions. And I'm telling you, people, we're going to get some good wisdom. Spend some time with Craig, and he's just very transparent. And so I believe that when we have transparency, it can benefit others. And so we'll dive right in. So, guys.
Yeah. We told everybody at work today we're going to do this thing tonight because we got this marriage thing down. You know?
Right. Definitely.
Yeah.
So talk to us, before we go backwards, talk to us about right now. What are some of the things you guys got going on? I'm hearing little niblets, you're in business together, and those types of things could cause tension, could cause stress. Just give us the average day in the Lambert household.
You want that one?
Okay, sure. Well, we do work together. We have a business that allows us both to use our own backgrounds. I'm a veterinarian, so I, have a lot of background in veterinary medicine and whatnot. He has a business and sales background. So we married our careers in 2008 and opened our own business. We have a pet facility that has boarding, day camp, and we have myself and two other veterinarians. So it's pretty good sized business for this little town. So for 12 years now, we've worked together. So our average day, basically he wakes up with a bunch of chickens, like 4:35 in the morning. He just gets up, he's super early bird, ready to go. No coffee needed, he's just ready. But I'm much more of a non-morning person. It takes me a little bit of time to get up. But I get up, we both kind of get ready for our day. We send our 16-year-old off to her school. She's driving, so we get her out the door, and then we head to work around 9. And he goes to his, area of the building, and I go to my area, and we may cross paths 2 or 3 times during the day, but we don't directly work together all day. We're not together, but we kind of like ships passing in the building.
But as business owners, you never leave it behind.
Yeah, right.
And having started a business in 2008 and quitting my corporate career, it's been some of the most stressful moments of our life.
Okay.
Times of like, hey, are we going to make it? Are we going to eat?
Well, we invested all of our savings, every single thing we had into this. And he left his job with a nice, solid benefit package and salary, and we just said, here it is, God.
We sat in front of an attorney who looked at us as a great man, and he said, when you sign this next round of papers, there is no plan B.
Wow. It's all or nothing.
So we've done that together. But we knew we were supposed to, and as I tried to tell my kids at the time, success in the kingdom is defined by obedience, and the results don't really matter. It's not up to us, but we just have to be obedient. And
awesome.
so it caused a lot. Donna said it changed me, and not for the better. There was some times over the years that the stress really would get to you. So that caused a lot. But we've journeyed hard in the last 18 months even in our marriage. So we want to share a little bit of that tonight for sure.
Good deal. Jackie and I have been in business before and owned it. It can be stressful. It can put a lot of pressure on just the relationship. We said we were going to be transparent and get down in the weeds. What kinds of pressure? What things would, if another couple came to you and said, hey, we're thinking about starting a business together, what wisdom would you give them?
well, as Christians, first of all, I would say, to seek godly wisdom, because you can have earthly knowledge, but wisdom only comes from above, So we just had a prophetic service at the church yesterday, and kind of reminded me of the old days. And I remember early on when we were planning this business, we had a prophetic person just point me out in a service and said, hey, that thing you're going to do it. I mean, it was just like, bam, So, and then we just had so many testimonies about all the crazy things that have happened, how we got the land that the business is on, and there's just no way around it. So, I mean, I think it's to dream bigger than you can possibly do yourself. That would be my biggest advice. You're probably dreaming too small, and you need to dream bigger. And when you have that pressure, it's about open communication, because you can get in some dark places, man. I mean, it was depression for me. It was, man, what have I done to my family? I mean, there were those moments, where I'm like, man, I'm 38 years old when I started it, 3 kids, mortgage.
That's right.
So I mean, the advice is to seek wisdom, seek that counsel, have a strong, solid plan. There's great business plan software out there, and just start writing it down, pretty much like Habakkuk.
Yeah, write the vision, make it plain,
and then run with it. So.
And I would say too, you should always be on the same page with each other. If one partner is not 100% on board, you probably shouldn't do a business together.
Yeah.
You both have to be 100% on board, because if you run into problems, then that person who wasn't on board will say, well, I told you you shouldn't have done
That's
this.
right.
I didn't feel like this was the right thing.
Right.
So you really have to both be 100% on board and believe in the mission and the goal to make it work. Because if you're not, then when troubles come, and they will come,
Right.
that one person who wasn't 100% sold out is going to be resentful.
And that's going to be for anything, buying a car,
Sure.
buying a
That's
home,
right.
That's anything,
having
yeah.
kids. I mean, you
Yeah.
got to be upfront.
You have to be 100% on board together with it.
But I remember when the attorney said those words to us, Donna goes, I need to use the restroom. And I said, I do too. So she went in the ladies' room, I went in the men's room, and I remember just, washing my hands, and I was just like, Lord, forgive me, man.
I trust you guys.
Yeah, no, so listen, we walk out in the hallway, and I just grabbed her by the shoulder, and I said, we don't have to do this. I mean, we can walk out right now. We're just out earnest money, and we can walk away. And she looked at me and she goes, I trust you. And man, wow. So that's when that pressure came.
Well, there was many months and years of work that went into it. So it was not like it was a spur of the moment. We had so much invested in planning and time,
years and years
prayers,
and years.
you name it. It was a
Yeah.
well prepared.
And Donna told me one time, she said, and she never really liked the business side, but this was one of the great nuggets, and she's always got great nuggets in situations like this. She said, you're trying to go from like A to F.
Right.
You just got to get to B. You're thinking way too far ahead. And that's applicable to marriage as well. Sometimes you get envious of other couples, and you think they got it all together, and man, that couple, how come we don't have that? Man, it ain't all good there either, I promise. But when we're trying to get ahead and go too fast, A, B, C.
That's right.
Wow, that's a great perspective. One of the things I noticed when I came to you guys' house, and is y'all work very well as a team. When couples aren't in sync, we know it, and when couples are in sync, other couples can see it. And there's been times where we've both been out of sync, and we both said,
we go through phases of that. I think when Hugh came to our house, he was having this men's meeting, and I was just like, this is awesome. I was 100% on board with what he was doing. I was like, I'm not going to be in there saying anything, but I'll help you prepare, and I'll do all the back work, because I really believed in what he was doing, and I thought it was going to be such a good thing. It was.
Yeah, almost definitely. It was
and that kind of speaks to our personalities. We're polar opposite personalities.
Okay.
Polar opposite in just about every single aspect. I mentioned he gets up early. I don't get up early. Many things we're just polar opposite. And that's been a challenge.
Guys, when I thought about Toast to Love, I wanted people to get, some wisdom, get a real couple that goes through real issues. And I was doing some research, and I don't know if y'all knew, but the average marriage only lasts 8 years.
Really?
I mean, that's here in America. Now across the world, it's a little bit longer, maybe 10 to 12 years, but the average marriage only lasts 8 years.
Wow.
And so my next question to you guys is, and I don't know if this is a layup, an alley-oop, or what.
Yeah.
Why does marriage matter when this world seems to be on fire? I mean, there's a lot of craziness going on, and with people saying marriage. I mean, why would I want to get married? Why would I want to invest my life with another person? Why would I want to make a covenant with another person before God? Why is marriage important?
Well, it's the second original covenant.
Yeah.
Right? The first one was to live with him forever, and we blew that. And he said it's not good for man to be alone, of course. And, here's the way I look at it. If Jesus is the cornerstone, and even if Jesus is not your cornerstone, every building has one.
That's right.
There's footings and foundations, and without those, I heard an old preacher say one time, if the windows won't shut and the doors won't close, you're going to need more than a paint job.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like you got a foundational issue, and I think what we're seeing in this world is a lack of, when I say parenting, you can feel like the biggest failure every day.
That's right.
And be doing a great job. Because you're showing up every day.
That's right.
And then you don't see the end result, but you just see the fact that you love these kids. And I want them to see that I love their mother. And see, people that have never been with the same spouse for a long time don't know how good they kiss after 20 years.
That's right.
That's right.
They don't
You're
know,
right.
They don't know how precious those moments and that intimacy that somebody knows you at the deepest core of your being, all of your warts and nastiness. They've seen your blow-ups, they've seen your letdowns, and they still, put one foot in front of the other and continue to do it. There is a reward for that. There is a reward. There is a depth of just what would I do for this woman? There's nothing that I would not do for her.
That's right.
And that's just the way it is, I'm not easy to live with. And we've journeyed hard in the last 18 months. We have. And we're going to share some more about that. But in 1998, we bought our first HP Pavilion PC. We were so tickled with that thing.
Okay.
And I had it set up in a place where, I was like, hey, we're going to use this to honor God, that whole thing. And she came in and sat beside me, and our two oldest kids were 3 and 2 at the time, I remember. And I was working on something, I'm sure, really important. And she sat down beside me, and she was like, hey. And I was like, hey, what's up? And she said, hey. And I just said, hey. And she looked at me and she said, I don't think I love you anymore. And we had been married 6 years at that time.
Okay.
And I remember my exact words were, I just turned and looked at her and I said, well, we got to do something about that. But, it wasn't an ugly thing. It was a cry of desperation. You had 2 kids, 16 months apart, life, and I was traveling all the time. And so we began, and I wrote a family plan, 5 series of our life in 1998, and I just read that just about 2 days ago. I found it where I'd scanned it into Dropbox, and I was going through some old stuff, and I found it, and I got to see all the categories of our lives and where we began to date, at least twice a month, and get a babysitter and all this stuff. I mean, so we got very deliberate about what we wanted to do, because that scared me, man.
Right.
But I was so glad she was up front about it.
That's right.
That's what it takes.
And I think there are many couples that experience that. And Jack and I went and got certified in some things, and we've been in several ministry groups that have benefited our relationship. One of the concepts we learned that most couples apply to their relationship is making bids. And a bid is simply where I'm reaching out to you. I mean, I'm making a bid to get your attention. I'm making a bid to be known in this relationship, for us to turn inward. And I think at that point in time, and Donna, as much as you feel comfortable talking about it, what led you to that point to just disclose that to Craig?
It's been so long ago. I mean, I don't really exactly remember all the emotions I was feeling, but I feel like I was probably just overwhelmed because I had these 2 little kids. I was working full time and as an employee at that time. So, it was more of a strict schedule.
He was on the road.
He was on the road. He was a
Gone.
salesperson, so I was handling the brunt of the housework, the child care, working full time. We were both, we had student loans, we had car payments, we made a lot of bad financial decisions, so there was a lot of pressure. And the whole time, I just feel torn between wanting to be home with my kids and having to go to work. So it was just, there was a lot going on. And I feel like too, when you get married or when you're dating and you're in such a state of infatuation and that romance and that, I think a natural progression for any relationship like that is it's going to go away. And I think the average time frame that we've been told is 2 years. That goes away, and you start to think, well, I married you. You're not that guy anymore. What I used to think was really cute is now just annoying. And so I feel like we were on that downslope of the infatuation. Hitting adulthood really hard. Working really hard with these kids and everything. And I just felt like I didn't quite know what to expect in marriage. Neither one of us really had role models for our marriage. Coming from dysfunctional families, we didn't really have any significant premarital counseling. We really knew nothing about what we were getting into, other than we just felt this connection, this chemistry. And then after all that died out, it was like, well, what's left, So we really had to learn what marriage really meant and what it was about.
Right.
The significance of working for it.
So were you guys Christians at the time?
Yes.
I was going to say, we were overcommitted, man. I was a deacon. She was leading the church nursery. We were singing
We were
in the
doing
choir.
all the right
We were on
things.
the praise team. I mean, we were doing all
We
the
were
right
doing all
lead
the
Sunday
right
school.
things,
I mean, we were doing all that
Christian
stuff. Wednesday night, Sunday morning, Sunday night,
Oh yeah.
Our kids had the drug problem we never had. Got
Big
drugged to
drugs.
church every time the doors were open.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's where we were. It wasn't like we were following the Lord and seeing crazy things happen, going on mission
But I think
trips.
Christians fool themselves when they think they're not at risk.
So on my 1998 plan, one of my things under the spiritual aspect was to be effective in a bold, underlined, circle ministry, knowing that I would be pulled in too many directions. And I think that's incredible, man. I mean, personalities like mine, I'm a yes man. You want to do that? Yeah, I'll do it. And I didn't get that wisdom until I was in my 40s, to where I'd look at somebody and say, no, I don't have to pray about it. I'm not doing that.
There you go.
That's not my gifting.
Your
I'm
first
telling you.
ministry should be your home.
Absolutely.
To your home and to your life.
Yes.
So do you feel like you guys are supported at church in your marriage? It's one thing because I'm talking to a lot of couples like we do, which is one of the things that prompted us to want to do this, because we're so busy serving other people and we want to make ourselves the least of these, that we begin to not pay as much attention to our mate, our children, our home. Sometimes that can fall by the wayside. It's crazy. We're talking with this COVID. This is probably the most we've been at home, and we have just fell in love with it.
It's been a blessing
Wow,
for us.
we have a deck, and we can actually sit on it. This is
And do nothing.
and
Just
nothing.
be together.
Be together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's one of
Because
the
a lot of things have gone away.
Sure.
But I think you saying that. I mean, that's amazing. That's God. You think, how did this happen? God had to really speak that, because who does that?
That's right.
Okay, it's normal, like, I want a divorce, and
Or
that's
you just
what-
go
you
find
just
somebody
leave.
else.
That's
Yeah.
right. You think,
That's
that's
right.
the grass
This is
greener.
definitely not what I signed up for, so I'm just going to find somebody else.
Yeah, that's the other thing we're seeing with majority of the couples that we counsel, coach, mentor, is that now they have become roommates.
Right.
We have a terminology that I think Jackie coined. They're functioning, but they're not flourishing within the relationship.
And we've been there too.
Yeah, most definitely.
Absolutely.
Most definitely.
Absolutely.
I was thinking about, you've gone backwards a little bit. What would you guys tell your younger selves? Knowing what you know now.
About marriage?
Yeah, about marriage. What would you
Oh,
tell your
goodness.
younger self?
Oh, goodness. I would just say, I would treat marriage like if you were on a fitness journey and you're trying to get healthy and lose weight and be stronger. You got to go to the gym. You got to learn about how to train your body and how to eat right. The same goes to your marriage. If you don't educate yourself and seek training and counseling, your marriage is just gonna flounder.
That's right.
You have to find a support system, whether it's a counselor, a small group, some support system to teach you how to flourish in your marriage, just like you would if you're taking care of your body or whatever.
Find an older couple.
It's something that many people don't get any wisdom or advice or counseling before they dive into it, including us. And so to go through it without a roadmap is scary, and there's way more out there than you could ever know that could help you, just knowing how to get to it.
But God
before
is
it's
faithful.
too late.
Right?
That's right.
He is faithful, and we're seeing our adult children too, which are married, and watching them make, as Dave Ramsey says, stupid tax. They're not paying nearly the stupid tax that we pay.
There you go, bro.
Spiritually,
That's
in
right.
the marital
Thank
situation, financially, they're getting it. And that, to me, is the coolest part. I would go through everything that we went through for our children to be able to do that.
Here's
But you
what
asked,
not to do.
yeah,
There you go.
you asked
So,
if the church, is supportive. I think the church is as supportive as you will let them be.
And it
Let me
depends
put it that
on
way.
which church
It
you're at.
does depend on the
That's
church.
true.
But I think, the bigger you get, the church, the smaller you get. So where has most of your spiritual growth happened? For me personally, it would be by myself, but then there's those moments in the small groups.
That's right.
And we've led so many small groups over the years, and we had 7 couples in one. And one day Donna said to me not too long ago, she said, "Do you realize out of 7 couples, there's only 2 people still married in that group?"
2 couples.
Wow.
And one of them. And so we were just like, I looked at her, I said, I guess we really stunk at that. I mean, but it was the reality of the battle that is taking
It's a
place.
battle.
So
Yes,
that
it
we
is a
had some
battle.
real
And Christians
moments.
are just as at risk as the general population.
That's right.
And we have to, which is one of the reasons why we decided to do this.
Yeah.
Because, we wanted to create a community where people could come together, even if on a website. Or our goal, our prayer, and our hope is that people around the country will catch Marriage Uncut, and they'll come together as a small group to support each other's marriages.
Yeah.
Like insurance, we get insurance on our cars, we get insurance on our houses, we got insurance on our kids, we have insurance on each other,
Yeah.
but we don't have insurance on this relationship.
That's right. One of the things that blessed us, we were maybe 10 years in, and I don't know if we were headed towards divorce, but we weren't in a good place. And so we got some mentors, and they just kind of came in our life. They must have saw what was going on, and they said, let's help these young kids out. And I don't want to mention their names, David and Cheryl Ivy. And every week they would get with us. And so what's going on? And sometimes it'd be just to dump and be able to complain, and then invariably we come back to him holding me accountable and Cheryl holding Jackie accountable. And so one of the things we really want to do is try to create a community where couples are mentoring other couples. What would a mentor have, and maybe y'all have had that along the way, would be in your relationship, or you see a younger couple, you say, you know what, they got a lot of potential. Let's wrap our arms around them, What do y'all feel in terms of having mentors?
Oh, I think it's invaluable, and I feel convicted that we haven't done it more for younger people. I think back to my own life, not having really a father figure that I could count on, going to friends' houses and seeing what a normal family looked like. I can remember as a small boy just thinking like, wow, man, this is a trip, I mean, so it was great. So one thing I would tell you is that you're a mentor and you may not even know it.
That's right.
Somebody's watching.
That's right.
People are watching,
Yeah.
and they think, oh wow, the gypsies, they got it all together, man. All these things, and then that's why we laugh when you get invited to do something like this. We tell you how not to do it. But yeah, to have mentors, I mean, I think it's just invaluable. It's almost like 3-strand cord, just tightened up a little,
Just
just
tightened
cinched up just a little bit more.
That's right.
We need to be more active in that. So maybe
Well, I think Satan whispers in your ear, well, you shouldn't be a mentor because you screwed up here and you're not
That's
good
right.
at that, and you've let your husband down in this area, so who are you to mentor anybody? And that's just Satan telling you
It is.
that you shouldn't.
And it's not something that you have to practice at or that you have to go get a degree to do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We live this every day. And because we're not perfect, we're going to help you with what did you say?
Stupid tax.
The stupid tax. You're going to hear that
Yeah,
again.
that's a day
We're not going to pay the stupid tax.
I want you to have to pay that.
Hey, if you can save me from that, and it's just the little things, and it doesn't take a lot.
That's right.
It's just, it's
Sometimes
just,
it's an encouraging word.
it is.
At the right moment.
Yeah, I'd like to switch gears real quick and throw a little fun in there on our interview. We're big on taking trips. We figured out after having raised so many children
We ain't going on
that
vacation.
we didn't go on vacation.
Yeah.
We do family trips, but we never broke away for ourselves.
Yeah.
And so older couples said, you guys got to get away. Y'all are not going to make it. And what's the best trip y'all ever took?
I'm going to let you answer first.
Well, for me personally, it was 2, maybe 3 years ago. We took our family, our whole family, there were 8 of us, and we flew to Phoenix. And then we toured all of the national parks out west.
Oh, wow.
Zion National Park and Grand Canyon. We just did like a 7-day tour. We had this big RV and we all piled in there. Not an RV,
It was a
Suburban.
Suburban, yeah.
Okay.
And then we stayed in like Airbnbs, like in a house, so we could all stay together. There was only at 4 or 5 hotel rooms. But then after that first week, all the kids flew home, and he and I stayed and drove up the coast of California
We flew to San Francisco.
and went to Napa and just had like a one-on-one week together, and we stayed in Airbnbs on the coast, and it was just
Beautiful.
magical. It was magical. It was the first time we'd ever taken 2 weeks back to back to go away, and it was like, that was long overdue. We should do that every year, 2 weeks together, not just a week here and then maybe 6 months later another week, but 2 weeks back to that was perfect.
Yeah.
That was the best trip for me. I don't know about you.
No, it's funny. We knew you were going to ask that question, and we didn't even talk about it. I said, let's just.
Oh, yeah.
But that's exactly what I would say. That was just an amazing
To
trip.
see our
We
kids
had-
experience all those parks for the first time and watch them when they see those wonders of the world.
Oh,
It's like, it's magical. So
And we've been all over Arizona because
Yeah.
I've traveled out there for 25 years, and I fell in love with it when I was a young man. And so I started taking her with me.
Uh-huh.
So in '98, going back to that family plan, I wrote on there that I was going to date her at least twice a month. That was my original goal. So I would let her pick the babysitters, and I would pick where we were going, so not all of it was on her.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also said I was going to set up 2 trips a year for her and I to get away, at least for a long weekend. So we would set it up for our moms or whoever could watch our kids, and we would do those weekend 4-day trips maybe. So I mean, that's how important getting away is.
Oh, it's
So your mentors were correct. So yeah, when Donna and I got to walk amongst those redwood trees and be
Oh,
standing at the
yeah.
base of a 300-foot tree that wouldn't fit in this room,
yeah.
it was amazing.
Wow.
I
It
turned
was,
50 on that trip too,
Yeah,
so we got
yeah.
to celebrate my birthday.
Wow.
yeah, it was so fun. Everybody got to be there to celebrate that. She said she's not a surprise party girl, you know. She's like, you throw me a surprise party, I'll kill you. You know? And she said, I want to be far away from here. Yeah.
I want to be
Go party.
I want to be far away.
She said, I want to be far away from here when I turn 50.
I want black balloons.
Thank
white
you.
flowers.
I don't want none of that. He's the party. I don't want none of that. Let's go.
So it was just such a positive trip. We didn't have a huge agenda. You know, we got to see things we just could only imagine. You know?
It's a beautiful part of the country. It's like another world.
Yeah, we got to see a sea lion molting on the beach, and we didn't even know we thought it was dying, but they apparently molt. We didn't even know that. I'm like, hey, I'm with a veterinarian. Is this thing okay? We don't know. It's like a wildlife rescue. They said, I think that's molting. We got a call about that particular seal. Go molt for several days. We were like, wow, we thought the thing was dead. It's 6-7 foot animal,
Anyway.
you know. But anyway, it was a
Bacon
great
in the
trip.
sun. Interesting.
Most definitely, I'm excited. That's we want to try to give people meaning to stuff. One of the things we talk about is called shared meaning, and you got to continue to do that in your marriage. It's where you intentionally say, "Hey, we're going to go do something,"
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to bring meaning to our life. And so, just hearing y'all describe the trip, and take us next time.
We'll go.
We're gonna go. Arizona. I mean,
Well, I think couples too can get stuck in a rut because some of us are introverts and we like routine and staying home, and then others are extroverts and like spontaneity and adventure. So it kind of works out well because he'll say, "Let's go," and I'm like, "Okay," and then I end up having a great time. So
What do you call me?
Captain Adventure.
an adventure.
Because I get stuck in.
really
I'm a
good.
homebody. I just prefer to just hole up, but he likes to go and do stuff. So I'm like, "Let's go."
So we have to weigh that out
Yeah.
whenever we take a vacation. It
Most
keeps me-
You know, so many great lessons we're getting here,
I know.
and that people, if they're not able to hang out with you guys like we are, I'm just glad to know, Craig, and getting to meet you and learn each other, is that you get the benefit of learning from each
That's
other.
right.
And so that's the other thing, that if you can't tangibly be with that person, you can still come on these pod sessions and listen in and say, you know what, that's a great idea. That's the great thing about hanging out with other couples.
Yes.
Invariably, and especially if they are balanced and not competitive and all those things, you're going to learn something. You're going to catch something that you say, hey, we're going to try that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to Arizona. I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Really?
We're going to the Ozarks.
Yeah, we're into those arts. Yeah,
Next month.
Next month.
To Marriage
That's
Retreat.
cool.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
we're
excited.
going.
Yeah,
That'd be so
Yeah.
cool.
That's so cool.
We're excited.
That's going to be great. Well, I met a cab driver in Chicago. I used to love to witness to cab drivers when I had to take them all the time.
Okay.
You have a captive audience at an international ministry right away,
Real quick.
Usually. But this guy said he had been a cab driver for 30 years. And I said, wow, in Chicago? He said, yeah, I've written 3 books. I said, you have? He said, yeah, I just haven't put anything on paper yet. And I'll never forget that in his mind, he had 3 books worth of knowledge. And we have to remember that everybody we meet is a book with a lot of chapters. And when you get a bunch of books together, you got a library, right?
There you go.
And there's a lot of depth of wisdom in that.
Well, guys, I wouldn't. It'd be robbery if I didn't ask you this question, because I think it'll benefit, all the people that'll be listening across the country, and even for us. What's the biggest challenge that you guys have had to face, and God came in there and He moved, and now you can just share your testimony of what God did in that situation?
You go ahead.
Well, probably 18 months ago, we were kind of back in a similar spot,
Yeah.
walking. We would go on these walks. We said, well, let's start going on a walk, so we would walk, and we just both agreed, man, I'm just not happy. I mean, we got to do something. I mean, like, I'm just feeling like, getting emotionally detached, and we're just not working at this thing. We're not being intentional, and getting close to empty nesters, marrying off some kids. There's a lot of emotions with all
Well, I
that.
think it was deeper than that. We both had a lot of unresolved conflict and a lot of resentment that had built up that we hadn't
I hadn't dealt with,
dealt with.
and didn't even know it.
And it had gotten to that point where we were starting to be complacent and just apathetic about it. We just had stopped really caring.
Well, in the teaching that we've been going through, it's called core scenes.
Okay.
The core scenes of your marriage. So when you think about a movie, you can go back to a movie. There's that core scene, and you're like, I'll never forget that scene. But this one never resolves itself.
It's the fights you have all over and over that
Oh,
you
come
never
on now.
It's
resolve.
the
Come
2
on.
or 3
The
fights.
same topics that never get
Yeah.
resolved.
It ends up
So you
everybody.
might have one, you might have 2 or 3, but it's
Oh.
always the same fights.
There's no resolution in it.
Yeah.
And you just wind up more bitter and more hurt and just saying more hurtful things.
And
so,
when you have 2 stubborn partners like us, one's not willing to admit that they could see things in a different way. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah, most definitely.
so what we've
It's hard to
learned,
say, I understand how you feel about that and truly believe it and not just say it defensively.
so what we've learned and the way God showed up is by a counselor.
Okay.
So Donna, was just like, I'm going to find somebody. Are you willing to go? I said, yeah, we counsel a lot with a lot of people. Yeah,
Actually,
let's go.
I decided to go for myself.
Yeah, she,
I was going to go to counseling for myself because I felt like a lot of the issues were within me. And I said,
Wait, could you say that louder?
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to go. If it works out, maybe we can go together. Well, actually, it worked out really great. We really liked the counselor. she's a wonderful counselor, and she's helped us a lot. So we both go, and sometimes we still go separately. We'll have individual sessions with her.
So we're sewing into our lives every other week still, our marriage for the last 18
It's
months.
like having that physical trainer at the gym.
Yeah,
You go and show up for an hour, and they work you through those exercises.
Oh,
and
yeah.
she works us through how to communicate in a better and more effective way.
Mhm.
You know,
How to resolve those
how
core
to
scenes.
resolve those.
Because the stories that we tell ourselves are really never true.
That's true.
The story that I tell myself is, you hate this particular thing. Like, no, I don't hate that at all. I just, to me, and you're like, what? I mean, so we assign intent.
Mhm.
And so her words to us are that conflict is
growth
trying to happen.
Okay.
And that's the way we have to look at it.
That's right.
Is that conflict is just growth trying to happen, because we're drawn to our opposites.
That's right.
And that's the way God made us, man. I mean, it's called Imago. It's a book called Getting the Love That You Want. Would highly recommend it. I don't know that he's necessarily a Christian author. He was a youth pastor at one time. I think he's a recovering Christian, maybe. But the wisdom is in there.
That's right.
I mean, but it's Imago is the image in the Latin language, and I mean, it's revolutionized our marriage in the last 18 months.
Wow.
It really
That was our
has.
challenge. I think we just hit an impasse where we had to make a decision. You know, are we going to try to keep this thing strong and going, or are we going to quit?
Mhm.
Or are we going to be 80 years old and hate each other's guts?
Or just live
You know,
out
miserable.
kind of just an existence like you
Yeah.
said in
Function.
your marriage.
Yeah.
Just function.
Yeah,
Just
you can
function.
live together, but are you really happy?
That's right.
So,
But see, it takes two to tango, right?
It does.
And that's the heartbreaking part, is watching so many friends who, one, decides, I'm just done. You know, and you've seen that look on people's face. I mean, when they're just done. And it's just, we've been in the presence of several couples like that, and it's
or couples that
it's-
hang on until their kids are gone, and then they're
and they're
done.
just done. You
Yeah.
know, and we
Yeah.
just, you know, we're both pretty stubborn, and we just have decided, you know, by the grace of God, we're not doing that. We're going to keep pressing on, keep trying to grow. You know, I'm 51 today, and I just told a guy on the phone today, I said, I feel like I'm in grade 46.
Yeah.
Because I always told my kids, your education never stops.
Never
That's
stops.
right.
You know, it doesn't stop in the 12th grade.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's the way we have to be about our marriage.
Right. Well, you know, this week, one of the issues we're talking about is forgiveness, and we see this theme recurring: unforgiveness, holding each other hostage. And one thing you said, Donna, and I want to kind of go down this road a little bit. What does resentment do in a marriage?
It breeds contempt.
Oh yeah.
It breeds contempt, and that's where you basically just don't like that person anymore. You don't respect them. You just kind of don't want to be around them. That's how I felt.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So what turns that around? What's, you know, we you know, if we're in the church, it's say Jesus will just give it to Jesus, cast your cares
That's
on
easy
him,
to say.
let it go. Yeah, all the
But
terminology we know.
For
But
us, it was just laying everything out
okay.
and saying, "I'm going to say some things that are going to hurt you, but I have to say them, and let's try to."
In its loving way possible.
I want to make it work. I don't want to give up, but we got to make some changes.
Right.
Yeah.
And just being brutally honest and knowing it could hurt that person, but knowing that in the end it's going to heal the wounds.
I mean, we've had more tears shed. Like, Donna's not a crier. Now, I'll cry with a good commercial. You know, so I'm a very emotional person. Like, you know, I'm like, let's do this. You know, like, I'm all kinds of, probably should be on medication. But for Donna, you know, like, I have seen tears in her eyes, and I have learned more things about her because of the way they taught us how to communicate.
That's
Just like you guys are doing with couples, breaking it down to where, hey, tell me a little bit more about that. Did I, you know, so it's the mirroring aspect, which is difficult to do because you got your own ammunition,
Oh yeah.
but I need to hear Donna. And I have, and those sessions have ended up with her like in tears, and I'm like, wow, I mean, because if I make her cry, it's going to be a bad 3 or 4 days for me. Like, I've pushed it too far. I'm like,
I'm with
hey,
you, brother.
can I, words travel at 600 I get some of those back.
That's
You know,
right.
you can't get them back.
No, you
And
can't.
at that point, you know, it's not going to be good. But these have been positive tears, you know, that lead to joy, you know, so, and understanding.
Well, over time, you know, like you said, if you don't resolve those conflicts and those feelings, it just is this big, deep sore, and you can't heal it until everything's out.
Yeah.
Would you guys advise, what we're learning, maybe if you've never done that before, should you go to a counselor? Should you
100%.
have another couple maybe?
I feel like you have to go to a neutral party who can
That's right.
teach you. Otherwise, you're going to continue being, combative and defensive because you just don't have the tools. We did not have the tools. We're not dumb people. We know a lot about a lot of things, but we didn't know how to make that work between us. We didn't have the tools because no one had ever taught us.
Yeah.
So it was a good investment to have a counselor to teach us. We look at it as what is more important than spending your money on than your marriage.
You got good insurance.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, I can't afford a counselor. Well, there's probably a lot of free ones through organizations and churches, but find something that you can make work for your life, and that would be 100%.
Yeah.
We used to say this, we invest in everything. We invest in our cars, we invest in our homes, we invest. But do you invest in the most important relationship besides with God?
Yeah.
If you saved up the money you spent eating out and on cable and your cell phone, you'd probably be just fine. You could have a counselor.
Well, it's like Marriage Uncut. The counseling is not going to be cheap. But it's an investment that is 100-fold increase as far as I'm concerned. When you seek counseling from people who have been trained and who have understanding and especially wisdom, you're going to get some help, man. And you won't believe. I always think about we're supposed to thrive, but I think we spend the majority of our time striving.
You're right.
And striving is exhausting.
It is.
It's just exhausting. And then, you reach a point where you're like, wow, I'm supposed to be planted and growing and doing, So
tell us about the difference that now and Jack and I have been through those phases where you spend so much energy in battling each other or trying to get your way or trying to exert your will on the situation and then when you realize, okay, we're using the wrong tools. When you said that, I wanted to leap up and jump because we preach that. You gotta use the tools. You gotta use the tools. What has been the benefit in your relationship of just using the tools from going to a counselor?
Well, anytime we do it, it's always beneficial. We always are able to resolve things a lot more rationally, quickly,
Rationally is the big word.
Instead of hurting each other, we're really trying to just communicate and make things resolved. I will say it's a discipline. We always talk about, well, we're not practicing, we're not doing the things our counselor says. We have to practice those things. If you wait till you're in the conflict to try to do it, it's probably not going to work because you didn't practice. You know what I'm saying? You have to work at it and learn to but really put those skills into action. It's like going to play tennis. If you haven't practiced, it's not going to do you any good. You have to learn to practice those communication tools so that when the conflict comes, you can sit down and try to work through it. And it's hard. I'm not going to say it's easy. We're still working on it.
Well, even in 2020, the concept of the farm. Think about it. This is harvest season. And I saw a news story where a gentleman had a heart attack somewhere out west, and 80 combines and tractor friends came and harvested his entire crop in 4 days, which would have taken him 2 or 3 weeks to help his family. So they pulled together. But here's the thing. If he hadn't planted those seeds to have knee-high by the 4th of July corn.
That's right.
So, the work has to be done on the front end. And it's that grunt work. And you could go through how many biblical applications. Dunging the tree and the fig tree. And, how about the olive tree that doesn't bear fruit for 20 years. And then it'll live 2,000 years, some of them in Israel. So, there's all kinds of concepts. It's sowing and reaping. And it's just like she said, we can't expect today to plant. It would just be ludicrous. But yet we expect to be able to walk into situations and have answers. Right. And we're not prepared. We haven't done the work, And that's what it takes.
Was that my phone?
Is low battery.
Is that low battery?
Low battery.
No, you're fine.
We'll edit that out. Well, y'all, we could go on and on.
Yes.
We could. But I got two quick questions for you. And I wanted to start this at the beginning, but I think it's the most important question. 2 questions. Tell us how you met. What was that first thought when you met?
You don't want to know.
And what? Hey, it's important.
You'll be able to tell it.
And then the second part of that is, what would you tell your younger selves?
Oh man.
But how did y'all meet?
So we met at the University of Georgia.
Okay, awesome.
And we grew up 100 miles almost exactly apart. We figured that out. Yeah.
Wow.
That was just weird. So we worked out in the same gym. And the guy that had the concept, it was an old mill, had the gym on this side and a really cool nightclub on the other side. so we were right into. So in his wisdom of building the gym, the girls would do aerobics back in that day, and they had to run up 3 flights of stairs. So we'd all be lifting weights and be like, "Oh, there's going to be motivation." So I was like, "Who is that girl? I got to know that girl." So I saw her several times, and I just was drawn to her immediately. And one of my roommates knew who she was. They had a class together. He's like, "I know her." I'm like, "You do not." And we walked over, and she wouldn't give me the time of day. But that's where it went. So we continued to run into each other. Campus of 28,000 people. We actually lived in the same apartment complex and didn't even know it. And it's just bizarre. And we just, over a period of a couple of years, she had a boyfriend, I had a girlfriend, and I would see her out, man. I might see her at a club or something, be like, "Where's your boyfriend?" I don't know, "Where's your girlfriend?" And then we'd wind up at the same party. And then one day she was just like, "Where's your girlfriend?" I was like, "I don't have one anymore." So I really don't like that. And I said, "Where's your boyfriend?" She goes, "I don't have one either." And so I wrote her number down wrong, backwards. And so back in those days, you couldn't find
That's
anybody.
right.
I ran into her in the gym like 2 weeks later. She's like, "Thought you were going to call." I was like, "Well, I told her the number." She goes, "You wrote it down wrong." But after that first date, man, it was on. But yeah, we were friends and knew each other for probably 2 years.
I canceled our first date because I had my wisdom teeth all pulled.
Yeah.
And I was having like a lot. I think I had a dry socket in 2 of them.
She
And
did
I said,
have a dry
"I can't go out with you. I'm in a lot of pain." And he's
I'm
like,
like,
"Oh, well, that's original."
That's original.
He really thought I was
Yeah.
just making that up. But I was like, "No, seriously." And then we finally did go, and I had, to take my little socket syringe and clean the teeth out.
But yeah,
Okay.
that was it
It
for
was
me.
awful.
Yeah,
That's
I
awesome.
was smitten. I asked her to marry me 6 months after we started dating.
Wow, that is so awesome.
I knew we were just
6 months.
stupid.
Yeah.
But young and bright
I
out.
would
Yeah,
tell my
man.
younger self, if anything, like you said earlier, find a mentor couple before you get married and invest in some really good premarital counseling. Somebody who can really help you, preemptively, stop some of the conflicts that you might run into. Just being prepared for them, knowing what's to come, not just walking in with blinders on and kind of seeing ahead in the future. This is some things you might encounter, and just knowing in advance how you need to resolve the conflicts. I would tell myself to really do that.
So August 16th, 1990 was our 30th anniversary of our first date, that first date.
Wow.
And so we went back to Athens. That was a Sunday night. And we spent the night at a nice hotel downtown and went out to dinner that night and just had a real good time. Walked around campus, and that was the weekend that they were bringing all the kids to campus. So we're watching these parents with their last dinner with their kids, and it was pretty wild to think about.
I felt really old.
Yeah. But it was cool.
So I was 21? No, I was 22 and you were 21.
Yeah, when we first dated. Yeah.
Well, family, we've enjoyed, we've ate, we came, we saw, we conquered, and hopefully we got some nuggets about marriage and got some great information from a great couple. One of the things that we do here at Toast to Love is that we toast to our couples. We got us some sparkling grape juice.
All right.
Yeah. And we just want to say a toast because many times in this society we don't toast marriages.
Yeah.
We toast at the beginning, at the wedding, but somewhere along the way we forget to celebrate each other. So we just want to celebrate you too. We thank you. We hope God continues to bless your marriage. And we hope that God continues to use you like He's always used you. And that you be impactful in your community and most importantly in each other's lives.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
here to you guys as well.
Thank you.
Good deal.
Wow.
All right, family, that's another episode of Toast to Love, and we look forward to seeing you in our next session, and thanks for coming and sharing. And if you want to get more tools for your marriage, go to marriageuncut.com, where you can find an array of tools that may benefit your relationship. now and even in the future. All right, goodbye.